to collect his bunch of keys with his driving license. When they reached the motor park, he told his wife to wait for him. He was going to the post office to collect a mail. 15 years. She refused. In that she was going to prepare dinner. As it he walked home, which was only a mile. On the following day, the maid returned. The driver also returned, even though he had a slight accident because of mind wandering. But at last, all of them met together again. As we come into this world, so shall we live it one by one through different processes and come back to continue our earth life as I said. 21 years, according to the promise of one righteous teacher to his followers, he said, if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back. We must not permit the thought of death to expand our mind. 23 years, let us rise as gentle guests and leave the table while it is yet full with refreshment. And God came into the garden and plucked the flowers which he loved best.
The universal God, mighty God of our land, maker of life, we come to worship him, we come to adore him, we come to sing his praise in love and prayers. There is no enemy when God of love is near. One brother who for all is lost in peace. A dish of great courage and all is
Chineke, ụmụ Gọdịanị, toonu Chineke. Ọ bụrụ na ị na-ebe a maka ịkwanyere nwanne anyị nwaanyị a ugwu, achọrọ m ka ị merụ Chineke otu ihe site n'ifetụrụ ya aka. Ọ bụrụ na ile nwanne anyị nwaanyị a ọ kara ezigbo nka dịka otu ihe siri dị ugbu a, ọ bụ taa ka akara ibido da nwoke ọnụ, ọ dịma na mgbe anya, mana nwaanyị a nọkwa na-adị ndụ ruo n'ụbọchị taa. Ọ bụrụ na ị chọrọ ka ị nọ ruo afọ a ma n'ofe ya, asịrọ m ka ifere Chineke anyị aka, fewere ya aka dịka ị na-efe ka ị ga-anọ n'ofe dịka nwanne nwaanyị a nọrọ. Ị ga-abụ onye ga-anọ na-arụ ike na ogologo ndụ gị ga-abụ ụba, n'ihi na ihe a bịara bụ ihe ọma, sị na ihe ọma na-achọ oyiri ibe ya. Ọnụ Chineke anyị. Ugbu a anyị ga-akpọ ezinụlọ a ka ha bịa kọrọ anyị akụkọ banyere ezinne anyị a. Bekee kpọrọ
Igbo kaadụwo Ikwuribe Maman kan si ka m gụọ biography Nneọha Ngozi Onyeọha. Obi tose ego ya bete obi anọghị ebe a ka m nọchiri ya. Chief Mrs. Ngozi Rosie Onyeọha Nwosa was a beacon of light in the committee of the Nigerian political class, fully participatory in the Zikist movement in the 1940s and 50s when Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was its president, alongside Mbonu Ojike and other Nigerian political giants, as the movement towards Nigerian political, social, and religious emancipation swirled and developed. Chief Mrs. Ngozi Onyeọha Nwosa met Chief K.O.K. Onyeọha, Ahain one of Nkporo, when he was Secretary General of the Zikist movement and the night editor of the Daily Comet of Zik's group of newspapers. Once married to K.O.K. Onyeọha, he introduced her into the whirlpool of every aspect of Nigerian nationalism and the country's struggle for freedom from British rule. Chief Mrs. Onyeọha was no ordinary woman. She was on par with Mrs. Margaret Ebo, Mrs. Flora Azikiwe, Mrs. Janet Wadiogo Mokelo, Mrs. Olufumilayo Ransom Cudi, please forgive me if I didn't get it right, and Hayiya Gambo Sowaba, albeit much younger warrior. Born an aristocrat from a noble family on her mother's side, Mrs. Wugo Waboso, a gold miner and a very rich woman in her own right, with a street named after her in Old Umuahia, and a princess from the royal household of Obinwosa, Nwaomenu, the founder and the village head of Umuoda village in Asaba and Delta State. She exchanged her royal cloak for the noble armor of the freedom fighter in the emancipation of the African from colonial oppression worldwide, Africa and Nigeria in particular. To this end, in 1950, when the NCNC's top leaders decided to organize the women's wing of the NCNC, Chief Mrs. Onyeọha was made the first Secretary General of the NCNC Women's Association, with Mrs. Lawson as their first president and Mrs. Wadiyam Bono as the first treasurer and Mrs. Kola Balogun as executive member. They formed a committee gathered in Lagos Market Women's Association to a mass rally at Aroloya Primary School and argued their case that they should join in the freedom drive. Thus was born the mass participation of women in the politics of Nigeria, of Nigerian nationalism. She went on to be appointed as a member of Eastern House of Chiefs by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe in a bid to raise her profile and consequently encourage further women's participation in Nigerian politics. In 1965, or rather 1956, when Bender women went on a rampage against the withdrawal of free education with Zik's NCNC government of Eastern Nigeria, which they had promised during electioneering campaign, Chief Mrs. Ngozi Onyeọha at once intervened and organized the rampaging Bender women into a union of Bender women and became the general secretary. She quelled their anger and took them on a delegation to see Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe through his Minister for Information, the Honorable Chief B.C. Oku, who recorded their complaints and promised to pass them to Zik for due consideration. Ultimately, the Bender women returned to Umuahia and called off their protests. Having had close contact with Dr. Azikiwe, the Bender branch of NCNC Women Association evolved into a strong platform that was further boosted following Mrs. Flora Azikiwe's tour to Umuahia as President General of NCNC Women's Association. Thus, Chief Mrs. Ngozi Onyoha was instrumental in organizing Bende women en masse into the National Party of Nigeria, NPN, in Imo State. She was also Imo State's Vice Chairman of the NPN and its Umuahia Senatorial District of the National Party of Nigeria. During Shehu Shagari's presidential campaign tour of Nigeria, Chief Mrs. Ngozi Onyoha was nominated by Dr. Nwakama Okoro and Dr. Chuba Okadibo to represent Igbo womanhood on the campaign trail because she spoke fluent Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, and English. Shagari found her a great asset to his campaign train because she addressed every rally audience in Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, and English. For this, Shehu Shagari thought her to be an all-around Nigerian. Following the 1980-1983 presidential campaign, Shehu Shagari appointed her one of the directors of the federal government's Central Water Transportation Board. Additionally, in 1978 and 1980, she accompanied her husband, Chief K.O.K. Onyoha, to meeting at the United Nations, where he was invited to speak on world disarmament. After this engagement, Chief Mrs. Ngozi Onyoha toured 8 states of the United States: Michigan, Ohio, Washington, Indiana, New York, Georgia, California, Chicago, and Wisconsin, with her husband, Chief K.O.K. Onyoha, and other traditional rulers of Ghana House of Chiefs, to apologize to African Americans for the role of some of our African ancestors had played by inadvertently cooperating with European slave traders of 1500 and 1800 to 1833, exporting their ancestors into slavery in Europe, West Indies, and America. They implored them to forgive and forget the memory of the inglorious past and instead turn their attention once more toward helping Africa to develop economically and culturally. Chief Mrs. Onyoha received various awards for all these activities in the various U.S. states she visited. She received the Spirit Award of Detroit on July the 21st, 1995 from the Detroit City Council, and a proclamation by the city of Cleveland, Ohio, from the mayor of Cleveland in July 25, 1995. She also received a chieftaincy certificate issued by His Royal Highness Eze Ogbu Aronsi Deze Aja of Nkoro on January 2nd, 1999 as Nneoha I of Nkoro in appreciation of her services to the Nkoro Kingdom. She's also the Oduahan of Nkoro, the highest chieftaincy title for a woman in her kingdom of Nkoro. Among her and her husband's achievements in Nkoro were the establishment of the first secondary school, the judicial court, the palm plantation, and many firsts that are too numerous to enumerate in the brief time available here. The above is, of course, an abridged version of her contribution to the emancipation of the independent Nigeria that we all now enjoy. It will be so fitting that her contribution to the nation is recognized by your presence at her funeral as you have done today. Thank you so very much. All who knew her can attest to her role to these ends. Her passing is a great loss to the nation. May she rest in God's perfect peace. And this song had so much meaning because what she was saying is that we must love who we are and love others for who they are. If you want to praise Chineke, use a kind heart. Be gentle, be kind, don't be mean. Love people where you meet them. Where all be the money to Chineke. Where be the man, where be wayo, where be the man to Chineke. Where be the man, where be wayo, where be the man to Chineke. asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ga-anụ ihe ha ga-anụ ebe Chineke na-ajụ ọ bụ gịnị mere ume n'ụwa jere ime hero ebe Chineke kere ụwa dị mma were obi dị mma nwanne were obi nwayọọ were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke were obi dị mma were obi nwayọọ were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ha ga-ahụ ihe ha ga-ahụ ihe ọma niile Chineke ọ dịghị onye ọbụla Chukwu si na ọka ya mma ọ dịghị onye ọbụla ka ibe ya mma were obi dị mma nwanne were obi nwayọọ were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke were obi dị mma were obi nwayọọ were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke ha sị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ha ga-ekwu eziokwu ha ga-ekwere ihe mkpụrụ mere eme ọ dịghị onye ọbụla okwu ya kacha ụtọ na ntị omenala anyị bụ eziokwu anyị were obi dị mma nwanne were obi nwayọọ were obi dị mma na-eto si were obi nwayọọ were obi nwayọọ na-eto n'oleke n'ụwa were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke were omenala gị ekekere ụwa dị mma were obi dị mma nwanne were obi dị mma were obi nwayọọ were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke
maka na ndị bịara abịa mere ka mara na chi dị iche iche nke bụ ịnọrọ na-eme ihe ị na-akọwa chi otu chi ahụ siri dị mechie na ya ka nye Chineke ekele ọgbasị dị elu anyị ekele gị n'ihe ohere ọma nke nyere anyị n'ụbọchị taa ihe anyị zukọrọ bụ ihe ọma ịkwanyere nwanne anyị ugwu Chief Mrs. Ngozi Egoke Onyo ọ gị gbara ihe obibi dị n'ọnwụ mmadụ apụghị ịkọwa ya ọ bụrụ na ọ nwere ihe nwụrụ n'ụlọchitebe akọwa otu ọnwụ siri dị ụwa gara ịdị mma ebe gị onwe gị mere ya ka ọ bụrụ ihe nzuzo nke dịrị gị na gị onwe gị bụ Chineke enweghị na-asị dịka nwanne anyị nwaanyị a na-alakụte gị ịbịa gụziere gị mkpụrụ obi nke o ziri ụzọ ime ihe ọma ịlụ ọrụ ọma na ibi ndụ ọma nara mkpụrụ obi ya na udo site ugbu a ruo mgbe niile ebighị ebi ihe niile nke m ga-ebe n'ebe a ka ọ bụrụ ihe dị mma ma dịkwa nsọ na ya ga-ezi Chukwu wee ka omume anyị niile wee dị mma ka ọ bụrụ ọnwụ ebighị ebi nke anyị ga-eketa n'ikpeazụ dịka anyị na-akwanye ugwu a ka ọ dịrị anyị otu a site ugbu a ruo mgbe niile ebighị ebi doonu Chineke mgbe niile ọ bụrụ ihe m chọrọ ka unu ghọta nke ọma ofufe nsọ niile dị n'ụwa ọ bụ ọnwụ mere ejiri nweta ya ọnwụ mere ejiri nweta ofufe nsọ ọ bụrụ na ị na-aga ụka dị iche iche ugbu a bụ ihe mere ofufe nsọ niile dị n'ụwa jiri bido death brought religion ọkwa n'ọnwụ ahụ bụ ihe a na-akwanyere ugwu ọkwa n'ọnwụ ahụ mere mmadụ jide ebube a sị na ọnwụ adịghị ga-adị ebube ụbọchị taa ọnwụ na-eme ka ị mara otu ihe gịnị bụ ọnwụ ọnwụ bụ echiche nke ọnwụ bụ gịnị ọnwụ bụ echiche echiche ahụ ị na-eche bido mgbe ahụ ị mara ihe aga m abụ ọnwụ a ọ gịnị ka ị na-eche otu ị ga-esi too otu ị ga-esi gụọ akwụkwọ ma ọ bụrụ ndị nwere ohere gụọ akwụkwọ otu ị ga-esi zụọ ahịa otu ị ga-esi lụọ ọrụ otu ị ga-esi rụọ ụlọ otu ị ga-esi gbaa moto otu ị ga-esi lụọ nwaanyị otu ị ga-esi lụọ di otu ị ga-esi mee nke a na nke ọzọ ihe niile ahụ ị na-eche onye ma bụ ọnwụ mgbe ichekọtara ha niile ibe ha na-akwụsị ịbụ n'ọnwụ toonu Chineke anyị onye mere ọnwụ ji bụrụ echiche ahụ ị na-eche mgbe niile ị na-echegasị onwe gị. As we gathered here, people are thinking a lot. What are you thinking? Death. You want to be in a house, is it for what? It's for death. You want to ride a car, for what? Death. The biography at the top. All our dear brother, sister, that is, as this today, as
Because in the spirit of my late father and now late mother, the way they wanted to propagate love amongst religions, different religions. My father instigated the first interfaith worship in Nigeria in 1962, and in that same vein, we now call on the camp chairman of Abia State, Christian Apostle General Agonwa, to say a few words for us.
Mama, because I know her, you know, we were small when the Papa was there too. I was in Kaduna Street with my father, and they were at Macaulay Street. We know them when they were growing, and we were there when they were doing politics of Zik and Emepara. And I know their roles.